Welcome back. The Taliban has secured a victory after President Ashraf Ghani's government collapsed on Sunday. U.S. President Joe Biden has defended the military retreat from the country, saying that there was never a good time to pull out their forces. But what does the U.S. retreat mean for Africa? Let's bring in political analyst Rebone Tau. Rebone, thank you for making time. How is this continent going to be affected by these developments in Afghanistan? I saw the Uganda just yesterday indicating that it's accepted a request by the U.S. to take about 2,000 refugees.
Thanks, Clement, and good afternoon to the viewers. What is happening, in Afghanistan, it does bring concern, to the continent. And interesting enough, the AU has not said anything. They've been quiet on the matter. Looking at the Sahel region on its own, the challenges that they face in terms of Islamic, we know in the past there were issues of also Al-Shabaab, in Somalia, right now we know what is happening in Mozambique. So it really it's a bit worrying. And the reality of the matter is that the people that have fled Afghanistan, in the main, if you look at women and children, because, with Islamic laws, life is very difficult. The Islamic laws are very strict, a lot of freedom that they had under the Americans has been taken away. And that's why I was seeing, and some, yesterday I was in one meeting, and one of the things was that it seems like also there might be a request on the South African government that if those who are on transit, can the South African government also try and host them in the country in the meanwhile as they're trying to get to other countries. So it will be very interesting, but it's said that AU is quiet on the matter.
And what do you think our government's approach is going to be? You're saying that yesterday in the discussions you were in, there was an indication that South Africa may be requested to play some role in assisting the refugees. Uganda is doing so. What do you think our approach is going to be?
I think one of the things that you need to understand, the founding, principles, in terms of South Africa's foreign policy, what we call Ubuntu, foreign policy, and issues of human rights, because South Africa is champions of human rights violations and so forth. So obviously, if you are having women and children who are vulnerable, who are trying to seek refuge, it becomes very difficult, to just tell them to not come into a country, where South Africa has signed certain protocols in terms of the Geneva Conventions and so forth around issues of human rights.
Do you? You've indicated that the AU has not said anything as yet. I haven't seen our government communicating its clear position on what happened, except to say that they're in communication with South Africans that are in Afghanistan. They're giving them contacts to assist them, especially those that would want to leave the country. But do you get a sense that the continent or most countries on the continent are buying this image of the Taliban that is portraying as a matured political force? I saw the European Union taking a soft approach. The UK Prime Minister was saying, let's not judge the Taliban just yet. But this is a coup, and these people have been responsible for some of the worst atrocities. What do you get as a sense of how our continent and most countries on our continent are feeling about this image that the Taliban is portraying?
As I've made an indication, we've got the Sahel region. We've got what is happening in Mozambique right now. You have what we have had in the past in Somalia, Al-Shabaab. It's of a bit of a concern that the continent or different regions, and I think also, I'm not sure if the SADC summit, I think, have issued their communique, which will also be interesting to hear what the heads of states from the SADC region, as they were meeting in Malawi, what have they engaged on, hoping that they would have engaged on what's happening in Afghanistan. So one has not read also seen the communique from SADC. and looking at also the different regions, because you've got regional bodies outside of the AU, which is the motherboard of all countries, within the continent. So it's a bit worrying that they're not saying anything. And what does it mean for us as Africans, dealing also with these issues of extreme Islamism, because we know when the Americans went into Afghanistan, the only thing that they wanted was bin Laden, and they overstayed. And this was based on their national interests. After September 11, when the World Trade Center was bombed, that's why the Americans ended up being in Afghanistan with NATO, their friends. And by the way, outside of what you're saying, that South Africans are trying to pull, the South African government is trying to pull the 7 South Africans who are currently there out of that country. You also have some of the NATO partners who are angry with the Americans that how do you just leave the country just like that and leave our citizens on the ground who are working, and apparently that some of the roads building up to the airport have been closed down by the Taliban, so people can't get to the airport. So it's frustrating for not...
Yeah, and the Pentagon was saying yesterday, they've been addressing the media, and they were saying, look, we don't even have capacity to extend the parameters outside of the airport so that we can make easy that pathway into the airport, because the Taliban are continuing with checks outside the airport. Some people who legitimately help the U.S. government, who have the relevant papers, are not even been allowed to enter the airport, and that's increasingly becoming a challenge. Rebone, thank you for making time. Political analyst Rebone Tau.